This is episode 10, and I know this might not seem like a big deal, but it is to me because podcasting is so much more work than I realized, and I have an amazing team behind me. But I'm super proud to have made it to episode 10, and so to celebrate that, I wanted to talk about my most favorite topic ever. And it kind of feels like I say that every week, but this week really is my favorite topic. And that is intuition. I want to talk about how to learn how to trust your intuition, how to know what your intuition is, how to differentiate between your head and intuition, how to differentiate between anxiety and intuition, and how trauma can impact intuition. It's such a huge topic, and when you can get it, when you can nail intuition and understand what it is and know how it feels in your body, it changes everything, like everything. And I'm not even being over the top by saying that. It really does impact everything. Intuition is just so powerful. And when you learn to tune into it, it's like it's your guiding light, your personal GPS. And when you can learn how to trust it and trust yourself in trusting it, it's huge because it allows you to live in alignment with everything. And when you can live in alignment, stuff happens. It just happens for you. So the beginning process of living in alignment is learning how to trust that intuition and to know what intuition is. So I wanted to start off by telling the story of how we came to move down south, because there was a huge, huge part of me that had to trust my intuition in this decision. So it was the middle of lockdown. Well, actually, it was kind of towards the end of lockdown. And we had talked about moving down south, down the south coast of New South Wales for a number of years. It had been in our 5-year plan for more than 5 years. And it was a dream and kind of just a topic that we spoke about together as a couple that we really, really wanted to do. There was no solid plans in place. We were always putting it off had some excuse as to why it didn't happen for us. And then I just got this really strong feeling that we needed to do it. So what that looked like for me, and I will go into what intuition feels like in your body, but it felt like a real pull. It felt like this real solid message that was calm. It was quiet, but it was strong. This message that we needed to move down south. And once we made the decision, because I said to my husband, let's try it. Like, what have we got to lose, right? We're in the middle of lockdown. We're not seeing anyone anyway. We have a kid that's in daycare, so he's not in school yet. He's not stuck in any situation. You know, you're thinking about leaving your job anyway. I am on maternity leave at this stage, and I've thought, you know, why not? Why not see what it's like to live somewhere else? And we wanted to go down south. We knew one couple when we got here, but we didn't know the area. We'd holidayed down here, and I cannot emphasize how easily everything fell into place once that decision was made. And it started with me trusting my intuition with it. So we had the conversation around what does that look like? My husband went on and looked for jobs. Amazingly, a job appeared. We got a rental really easily, which it sounds crazy, but down here it's very hard to get a rental. We got a rental opposite the beach, like in an area where and now we love and have beautiful neighbors and community. And like I found a yoga studio really easy when we moved down here, like friends, like everything just fell into alignment. And that started with me trusting my intuition. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's not the only time I've done that, but it's a very, very recent kind of example of when I've done that and how it just paid off. It really paid off. Now, it's not always easy and that wasn't an easy decision either, right? So moving down south was not an easy decision in that I knew it needed to happen, but I didn't know that there would be a lot of grief in that, right? I left behind beautiful friends, beautiful family. Not that I can't see them again, but they're not as close as they were before. And so it wasn't an easy decision to make that, but I knew it had to happen. Like something strongly in my gut told me it had to happen. And when I work with clients, yes, like single women in particular, yes, I get them to make a list and understand what they're looking for and know that when they're going into dates. But always, if they know how to trust their intuition and gut, that will always override the list. Always. Because your gut, your intuition knows stuff more than your mind does. That's why it's so important to know how to trust this. And when you can learn to trust your intuition, it's a shortcut. It's such a shortcut to know when something is right or not right for you. It shows you when there's red flags there because intuitively you know something is off and you can trust that feeling and investigate it further. So often we ignore that intuition and we think, I can't trust it. I don't know what this sense is. And then you look back on things and you thought, oh, God, I should have trusted that feeling, right? I'm sure we've all been there. So learning how to trust it initially can protect you from those potentially harmful or unhealthy relationships as well. So I want you to think of intuition as, your gut feeling, your spidey sense, that little voice in your stomach that says, or your womb that helps you make a decision and you don't always know why. So it's something like your subconscious mind gives you this nudge in a certain direction and you don't really understand it. You can't explain it with logic. You can't explain it with facts. And so therefore it's a little bit confusing because we're so used to clinging to facts and real data or whatever that looks like. And it's your brain's way of saying, hey, I've got a little bit of a hunch about this. So let's follow it. Let's follow it and see what happens. Let's get into the difference between anxiety and intuition, because I feel like this is where most people get tripped up in trying to tune into their intuition or trusting your head and your intuition. So, anxiety often comes with a physical symptom. So like a racing heart, sweating, shallow breathing, and these feelings and symptoms can be super uncomfortable and stressful. Intuition doesn't normally come along with physical symptoms. It's more of a quiet, subtle feeling of knowing. It's a knowing as opposed to a racing thought. It doesn't create that same level of physical distress as anxiety does. Anxiety is usually associated with these like negative or fearful emotions. So you might feel worried or scared or stressed. And intuition doesn't have that fear associated to it. It's really more neutral or positive. I would say it's more neutral than anything. And that can be confusing as well because it's not shouting at you in a way of being really positive or really negative. It's neutral. It feels like this sense of clarity. So it's like this quiet confidence or feeling about a decision or situation. Anxiety often comes in and can be triggered by external events or stresses or concerns. And you can usually, if you get quiet, know what the anxiety is about. And intuition sometimes comes out of nowhere. So it provides this like insight or guidance that can lead you somewhere that might not be tied to anything that you associate with a concern. And finally, what is very, very key, and we'll go into this when we talk about how to learn how to understand how to feel anxiety, intuition in your body, is that anxiety often lives in your head and its thoughts. So when you can get clear where the sensation in your body is coming from, the anxiety lives in your head, the intuition lives in your gut, your womb space, your area down below as opposed to up above. So that's if you can understand the difference between them, that's why the anxiety causes thoughts, racing thoughts or tension or stress, and there's a sense of calm or peace with the intuition. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be a hard decision or it might not feel immediately right, if that makes sense. If you do, like after this, if you do have questions about intuition or anxiety, please reach out because I know that it's not always easy to differentiate and knowing it in your own body is what's really, really important. So let's talk about how you can tune into your intuition. So like I just spoke about, if you can cultivate that self-awareness of what different sensations feel like in your body, you can understand when it's your intuition and when it might be anxiety, when it might be something else. So that just comes with practice and time, right? You have to get quiet for that, because anxiety loves noise. It loves feeding off stress and having like overwhelm around you. And we're not used to getting quiet in today's society. We're used to having stimulus all the time. But the more you can get quiet and feel what things feel like in your body when you walk into a room, how does that feel like when you meet a new person? What does that feel like? I will get into trauma a little bit later on, because I know that can interrupt that feeling. But when you are feeling like you can do this, practice what it feels like. What does it feel like when you go into these situations where where you haven't been before, or even where you have been before? Then practice like mindfulness or meditation again to quiet your mind and make it easier for you to be able to hear that intuitive voice come in. Then it's about trusting your gut. It's about having the intuitive feeling. And this doesn't have to be about just major life decisions, right? It could be about, what am I going to eat next? Where am I going to go? Like, what way am I going to drive to work? Where are we going to meet today on this date? Like, am I going to chat to this person dating them? Like, should I go on another date with them? Trust your gut. Like, practice it. You're going to have to experiment with it. Does it make sense? What did this feel like? What did it feel like to trust my gut? What did it feel like to not trust my gut and have this happen? Right? Understand what it feels like. I don't know if I'm saying this enough, but it's about feeling what it feels like in your body, right? Trust what it feels like, and trust what it feels like when you don't do it. Like, you need to understand what it feels like for the differences. So like, reflect on those past experiences. When you've had those past experiences where you haven't trusted your gut, where you've ignored the red flags that you knew were there, what did that do? What impact did that have on you? What impact did that have on what went forward? What happened next, right? Really, really, really important. The biggest thing with intuition, and I know I said it before, but it's about getting quiet, having solitude, being by yourself, having time away from the stimulus. Just like lay in bed without picking up your phone, lay on the couch without turning on the TV, be outside in a park and just be. Like, what is it like to just be? Because the more that you can just be in your own body and be with yourself, you'll be able to understand it quicker. And let me tell you, this is the biggest shortcut you could ever have in dating, in relationships, in life, in everything. I am just so clear that this is the number one thing that helps me do everything I do. How I coach people is intuitively, how I run my business is intuitively, like how I do everything is intuitively. So I'm just so passionate about the impact that this can have on your life. And I want you to practice patience, because this takes time. This is not an easy thing, particularly when we're so addicted to stimulus and outside stuff. No better way to say it. But when we're so influenced by those things, it's hard. So let's chat quickly about trauma, because trauma can significantly impact intuition. It makes it more complex. It makes it more challenging to navigate. And it's because, when you have a history of trauma, there can be a distrust of intuition, because there's a distrust of what it feels like in your body. And it's hard to be in your body when you've experienced trauma for many, many reasons, but you can have these heightened sense of being alert or hypervigilant, or you could be hypo or hyper-aroused, right? So you could have extreme anxiety or alertness, or you could have numbness and dissociation. Either way, you're not in your body, right? So you're impaired with your emotional regulation. It's hard to navigate these emotions and feelings in your body because of the trauma. It kind of skews everything. So it's not that you can't get there with trusting your intuition. It just means that you have to do a little bit more work around, probably working with a therapist or a coach, around what does the trauma feel like in my body and what does intuition feel like in my body? So again, it's about like differentiating the two and learning to trust yourself again and learning to trust your body again. So it just adds another layer of complexity. It doesn't mean that it's impossible or too hard to do. It just means that this might get in the way of it. And I need to mention it because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that the trauma sometimes gets in the way of trusting that intuition. So the more that you can kind of create self-compassion for yourself and a sense of safety in your body, a sense of safety in your mind, and just a sense of safety overall, you'll be able to trust that intuition more. And again, maybe it's about practicing that stuff. Maybe it's about practicing how to trust your intuition, how to trust that knowing again, right? And developing the skills that allow you to feel safe. That's all. I really want you guys to practice this, to see what it's like to feel it for yourself. If it's something that you feel like you want to know more about, like jump into my community, work with me one-on-one. There's many ways that we can figure out how to trust that intuition for yourself. But I just love it so much when I see women who learn to trust their intuition and say no to a situation that they maybe wouldn't have in the past. And the strength that comes out of that is so powerful. And I want you to have that feeling for yourself. So learn how to do this. It's your superpower, your absolute superpower to life. And I'll see you next week.